and I will be sharing the recording with all registered participants. I will speak for about 45 minutes. As I said before, it is mostly a live presentation, and we will leave some time at the end to answer questions. At any time during the presentation, you can type your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. There is an icon now on the screen. That's where you can type your questions, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. So this seminar is not an introduction to protocols.io. Today, we will be covering some advanced topics. You can see the agenda on the screen. And so we'll be talking about the editor, how to create protocols in the platform out of existing protocols. Also, we'll talk about some cool components in the editor as well, and how to upload and embed images and videos. We will also cover topics on the file manager, particularly about the difference between copying and forking and versioning an existing protocol, and how to create a collection of protocols. And finally, we will touch on how to share and how to publish your protocols. But before we jump in, just as a reminder, in case you are not an advanced user of protocols.io, I just want to point out that the platform is really intuitive, and the best way to familiarize yourself with the many different tools and functionality is to just log in and play around. However, we also have a series of resources that you can browse for more information. So these resources can be found in the URLs that I'm showing to you on the screen right now. So we have a series of regularly scheduled webinars that include once a month an introductory one. So if we open, here. So if we open the webinar web page, you can see the schedule of the upcoming webinars. So they are hosted once a month, and we target different time zones. So we have webinars for Europe, Middle East and Africa, webinars for Asia and Oceania, and then webinars for the Americas. And at the top, there is a link to request a one-to-one demo. In these demos, you will have the opportunity to talk one-to-one with one of our staff. We can share our screen, you can share your screen, and we can have a very dynamic conversation that will try to address any questions that you have about the platform. So now let me go back to my presentation. Okay. So now let's begin, and let's start with the editor. So as I promised, this will be a live presentation. So here we have my account in protocols.io. Just to orient ourselves, to the left, we have the workspaces to which I belong. Then here, this is the file manager. And to reach the editor, we can reach it by clicking the new button and then create a new folder or a new protocol and a new collection as well, but I'll get to that later on. So obviously, you know, the way for creating a new protocol is to select new protocol, select the folder in which we will save this protocol. And then we can select one among different templates to begin working. And so this is not a commitment. So once you select a template, you can change the template for any step. And what is different between different templates are the components. So these are the components that we have uploaded into the generic template, and those will change if I select the biology, computational, and so on. And I can do that for every single step. And I bet that most of you have already created protocols in our platform. So the way to begin is to add a title and then add, start adding steps to the protocol. But what I want to address now is what if we have already an existing protocol in a different format, a Word document or a PDF. And I'll show you three ways for us to transferring those protocols into protocols.io, going from the easiest to the more complex and sophisticated, but also more useful way of doing it. So the first way, and I'm going to go back to the file manager. So the first way for us to import protocol is just to drag those files into my folder. So as you can see here, this is my hard drive, and I have protocols here in different formats. So I have a PDF, I have a document, I have text, I have Microsoft Pages here. And it is very easy to just grab my protocols and then drag them into the folder that I want to import. You can see here, the protocols are being imported, and now they reside in protocols.io. The advantages of doing this, which essentially takes no time, is that you can centralize all your protocols and protocol-related documents into a single repository. And also, it is very easy to share those protocols with colleagues. So I can select the protocol that I want to share. I click the share button, and then I can type an email here. Now, the disadvantages is that the protocols imported in this way are not publishable, and they cannot be versioned or run in the platform. And also, the findability of those protocols are limited. A second way of importing our protocols is to attach that document into a protocol created in protocols.io that otherwise will be empty. So the way to do that, again, this is the second way, is I'm going to create a protocol, a new protocol. I again select the folder in which I'm going to save that protocol. And so now I have an empty protocol to which I can add a title, which will make it more discoverable. So this is a test protocol import, and I can write the day. Let's say today is the 13th. In the description tab of the protocol, I can add an abstract to that protocol, which will also make it more discoverable. And if I scroll down all the way to the bottom, there is a window for me to add an attachment. So I can select my attachment from the file manager, or I can just drag and drop it here. So I can take the protocol that I want to import, let's say my PDF protocol, and just drop it here. So the protocol, it's empty in its steps, but it has the protocol inserted as an attachment. So now if I go to the file manager, I can see that the protocol was created, and I can open it. And I can view it. So the protocol has a title, has an abstract. Here's the abstract. And the protocol itself is contained in the attachment. Now, the advantages of importing my protocols this way is that, just as in the previous case, I can easily share my protocol, but in this case, I can also publish my protocol, receiving a DOI. And these protocols are also versionable. So I can publish it, and I can also version it. It takes a little bit more time, but the benefits are important. Now, unfortunately, I cannot run this protocol in the computer, which is a feature that the step-by-step protocol of protocols.io offers to the users. Now I'm going to show you the third way in which you can import existing protocols, which takes more time. It's more sophisticated, but also offers more advantages. To do that, I'm going to create a new protocol. I'm going to select the folder. I can give it a title. I can add an abstract. I go back to the steps, and I don't know if it's too small for you to see, but here it says, if you have an existing protocol, you can insert steps from a text file. So I'm going to open the protocol that I want to import. So here is the protocol that I want to import. It is a text file. There is a title, the authors. It has an abstract. It has some notes. And then the steps of the protocol start here, and they are grouped in sections. So I'm going to take this text, and I'm going to transform the text into the steps of the protocol in protocols.io. So I'm going to replace the abstract first with this, so I can copy the text and just replace the abstract. I go back to the steps, and I click Insert Steps from a text file. I copy the steps that I want to insert. In this case, it's a step 1 and 2. There is a typo here. It should be 2. I paste them here in this window. And it says, I have 3 options. In my case, each number is a step. I preview, and now the steps in the text have been transformed into steps in the protocol, and I add to the protocol. These steps belong to the first section, so I can take the title of the section, and I can add my section here, the title of my section. There is a note here that also tells me what the piranha solution is. So I can copy this text, make a note here. And now I'm going to keep adding my steps. I have a second section. So I can create a new section. I'm going to take the title. New section. I add the title, and I'm going to insert the next 4 steps. I preview. I can delete this step, which is empty. And now I have 2 sections with 6 steps, which are the first 6 steps. And then I can keep doing it, section by section, section by section. Now, and then I can start. Now I can use the editor to make my protocol a better looking protocol that also would have other functionalities. So one thing that I can do, I'm going to change the template to biology. I can see that there is a time here, 30 minutes, which I can convert to the component duration. There is a concentration here, which is a percentage. So I can also add a concentration, and it's volume to volume. There is another one here. There is another time here. And so on. I can keep doing that for every step. Now, and I'm going to show you some of the advantages of doing that. So I can, again, go to view. I can view my protocol. And now this is how it looks, right? Because it has sections. There is a table of content with the 2 sections. And I can navigate from section to section very easily. As in the 2 previous cases, this protocol can also be shared, can also be published, but this is the only protocol that can be run as an experiment. So if I go to the view, I can hit the run button. And that will allow me to follow the protocol directly from my computer, my cell phone, or my tablet. And one of the advantages of creating components, particularly for the time component, is that it actually becomes a timer. So as I am running my experiment, and there is a step that is a time step, I can click the start button, and the timing will start counting down. And when the time is over, the computer or cell phone will beep. Let me know that time is over. As I proceed in my experiment, I can tick off every step as a completed step. I can even edit a step on the go, or I can add a comment to that step. For example, if I made a mistake, or if something doesn't look as it should, I can add a comment to that. And at the end, when I finish my experiment, I can save the record of that experiment as an independent file. So I've covered now the 3 ways in which we can transfer to the platform existing protocols in a different format. Right? Now, let's work a little bit on the editor itself. So we have this protocol now that I have created with a title, an abstract, and different steps. So we highly recommend that you add titles and abstracts to your protocols because that will make them more discoverable. But let's work on the editor itself. So I'm going to be touching on features that might take a couple of months of playing around to discover, but we think they could be useful right away. So one of that components is what we call the smart component. And the smart component is this icon, which will insert what looks like a table. And I can select whether those are required or not. I'm going to select that they are both required. And I can add titles. So I'm going to run an experiment that requires counting the number of dead cells in a microscope field. So I created my table with my 2 components. Now, this is a nice feature when you actually run the protocol from the computer. So again, I'm going to do a mock run. And again, as I complete the first step, I hit done. It is recorded. And now when I hit the second step that has a smart component, I cannot click the done button unless I fill in the smart component. So I count my number of cells, and then I count my number of dead cells. And now I can hit the done component, or the done, step. And I can now proceed with finalizing my experiment. And I can save that record that is going to have the entries to the smart component as an independent record again. But we can also insert regular tables. So I'm going to create a table. That I can fill it myself. And it also accepts formulas. So I can make, let's say, a 10x volume. And then I can write equals B2 times 10. And then yes. And I made my table. I can also import the content of the table directly from Excel if I created my table previously. So I have a table here that I created. In this case, it's Google Sheets. But I can take it copy, and paste it here. Now, the table that I created in Excel, column C, it's actually a formula. I don't know if you can see it, but it is a formula. When I copy the content and paste it into my table of protocols.io, the formula wasn't transferred, just the value was transferred. But we can change that. If I want to change that and I want to transfer the formula in Excel or Google Sheets, I have to go to View, Show, and Show Formulas. Now, the column C displays the formulas, and I can copy them and paste them here. And now the formulas were transferred. Okay. Another thing that I would like to show you about the editor is how easy it is to insert images or embed videos. So for images, I can insert an image or a video that I have in my hard drive or in the cloud. I can go to Documents, Protocols.io, Demos and Training, and I can insert an image from the hard drive or cloud. And I can also embed a video that has already been uploaded into YouTube or Vimeo, for example. So let's do that. YouTube, PCR. And let's say this is the video that I want to embed into my protocol. So I open the video. I go to Share. And I copy the code that appears when I select Embed. I copy this code. And I select Embed Media. I paste the code there. And now the video has been embedded. And a nice thing about this is that when I view the protocol displays the playable video and not only a link to YouTube in this case. And I can actually display and play the video.
There are some pieces of...
Right? So this is what I wanted to show you about some of the features, more advanced features of the editor. Now let's move on to the file manager and the differences between copying, forking, and versioning. So I'm going to select one protocol and make a copy or fork. Now, what is the difference between making a copy and making a fork? So first of all, the copy, it's only available for the owner of the protocol. If I go to a public protocol that has already been published and I'm not the author of that protocol, I cannot copy it. I can only fork it. By copying a protocol, I make two identical copies, but they are independent of each other. There is no history linking the two copies. By making a fork, I make two identical copies of the protocol, but they are historically linked. That means that the second copy will have a tag that says that this new copy of the protocol has been forked from an original version. I, as a user, can make a fork of any public protocol, and they will always be linked to the original protocol. To create, and the idea of copying, for example, because they are not linked, is that if you are going to create a series of protocols that are not related to each other, but they all have the same metadata. For example, they have the same set of authors, or they have the same funding, you can create a template with all that information and then make multiple independent copies that then you can complete as independent protocols that only share the metadata. Forking, it's an adaptation, or the idea of forking a protocol is to adapt an existing protocols to new conditions. For example, if you're going to transfer a protocol to optimize it to work in a new species. And finally, to create a new version, you also have to be the owner of the protocol. I cannot create a new version of an existing public protocol. And versioning means is usually an improvement or a correction of an existing protocol. So if the changes are really minor, you should version your protocol. If the changes are on the major side, a fork is recommended. As I explained before, I'm going to open a public protocol, right? And any public protocol can be copied or forked. And it will have a historical link. And in any public protocol, there is a tab that shows the forks that have been done to that protocol. So if you publish your protocol and it is forked by somebody else, you will see that. So in this case, this is a very used protocol, and you can see that it has been forked. Sorry, it has 3 versions. So the authors have created 3 versions of the protocol. And version 2 has many forks. This is a symbol for the fork. And some of those forks, in turn, have many versions themselves. Now, let's talk about how to create a collection of protocols. So let's say that we have been working on a series of protocols that they will be all included in a single publication. So I have created a folder that is called paper 1 that contains 3 independent protocols that I want to report in that single paper. One efficient way for doing that is to create a collection of protocols that then I can publish as a collection, receiving a single DOI for all those protocols. I can also independently publish the protocols and receive DOIs for each of them. So to create a collection, I go to New, and instead of selecting protocol, I'm going to select a new collection. I select the folder in which I want to save that collection. In this case, it's paper 1. I can add a title to the collection. I can add an abstract. And now I can start selecting the protocols that I want to include in that collection. I can search for public protocols, and I can search my files. So I'm going to search in my files. Sorry. And I can add my first protocol to the collection. My second protocol to the collection. And the third protocol to the collection. So I added, I can sort them. I can change the order. I can publish the collection as a single document with all the protocols. And this is how the collection will look like. And I can open each protocol independently. And finally, what I wanted to share with you in the last few minutes that we have is about how to share your protocols and how to collaborate. So I've already told you a little bit about how to share protocols. We can share protocols from the editor or from the file manager. So to share a protocol from the file manager, I select the protocol, I go to the share button, and then I can add an email address here to be of the person with whom I want to share. And I can control what that person can do with my protocol. They can only view it, they can view, edit, they can edit and publish it, or they can be co-administrators of that protocol. I have that granularity. I can also share with a full workspace. And up here, there is a link that will give you a view-only private link that you can share, for example, with reviewers, if you are including a private protocol in a submission to a journal. So you can copy the private link here, and there is a blind review link that will strip all the information regarding to authorship from the protocol. A more collaboratively way of sharing your protocol is bringing people into your workspace. So to do that, you go to the administration menu of the workspace to which you want to invite people, and you can select Manage Members, and then you can invite people, here. You can invite people by using their email again. Or you can copy a link that will contain the invitation. So I'm waiting for him to accept the invitation, and he will receive an email notification. And then you can manage the privileges that the members of your workspace will have. For example, you can prevent these members from sharing files outside of the workspace. You can set an umbrella default of what the members of the workspace can do. You can have view-only members, view and edit, view, edit, and publish, for example. So it's very granular, the privileges that you will grant to the members of your workspace. And I think that with that, we will wrap up today, opening the floor for questions. But again, let me remind you that if you have any deeper question, you're free to request a one-to-one demo, which can be reached by going to protocols.io/webinars, where you will see the list of upcoming webinars and then request a one-to-one demo. And you can also feel free to reach me at my email address, which I will be typing into the chat right now, but you can also see at the bottom of my screen. So let's see if people have any questions. So the question that Angie C is asking is whether for the free account, the safe protocol, where there is a limit, which is 5 private protocols or 100 megabytes of space, and that's for whichever comes first, and that is correct. Yes. So let me see. There is a question that says, Brigitte asks, what sharing structure of protocols works best for biology lab? So are you talking about whether it is best to have the step-by-step format or the attachment? Is that what you mean? If that is what you mean, our recommendation is that you do step-by-step as much as you can, because in that way, future users can very easily fork your protocol and just modify a single step if that's the step they want to optimize, without having to rewrite everything down again. And also the step-by-step format of protocols.io is the only one that is runnable on the computer or tablet. If you're asking on whether it is best to share using the share button or to bring people into the workspace, it depends on how collaboratively you want to interact with your colleagues. If you want, let's say, if with your colleagues you are working on a whole project that contains many protocols, I would recommend that you create a workspace and you bring people into the workspace so you can all work on the protocols simultaneously. But if you only want to share one specific protocol with one specific person, I will recommend to share it directly by using the share button. Brigitte, let me know if I didn't. Oh, no, sharing the protocols between. I think that probably I answered your question already, but let me know, Brigitte, if I didn't. Okay. Then Mohammed asks, can you limit access to folders to different people groups like for the main workspace, once you have a folder, so each workspace okay, let's open another window. So each workspace should at least have 2 folders. It has a main workspace folder to which every member of the workspace have access. You cannot restrict access to specific folders to specific users of the workspace. However, every user of the workspace has a second folder, which you might see that has a raccoon logo. And that's a private folder that only the user can see. So anything that I store in this folder, I can only see, but I cannot share it with anybody else. If I want something to be seen by everybody from this private folder, I have to take it and drag it to the main folder of the workspace. In the workspace, you can create multiple folders, but all those folders are accessible to everybody in the workspace. The best way to restricting access is to create different workspaces. You can create different workspaces. So there is a button here that says new workspace, and you can create a new workspace within your account. And to 2 different workspaces, you can invite different people. So people in workspace 2 won't see what is happening in workspace 1 and vice versa. And some people can be in both workspaces. And each workspace can have a subset of overlapping documents, but they could also have independent documents that are not shared among the 2 workspaces. Did I answer your question, Mohammed? Okay. Then Carol asks, has this webinar been recorded for later review? Yes, I'm recording the webinar, and I will share it with all registered participants. You should be getting the email within a day or 2. No, Mohammed asked if you can have workspaces within workspaces. You cannot have nested workspaces, but you can have independent workspaces. The way I have them here. So I have all these workspaces. They are not nested, but they have different members with different privileges in each and different documents. And you can make your workspace public, which means it's searchable, and you can make your workspace private, which means that it is not searchable. If you make your workspace public, people can search for it, but you can restrict how people can join them. So there are workspaces in which anybody can join. There are workspaces where you have to request to join, and you have to approve, to be approved to join, and there are workspaces that you can only join by invitation. Anything else? Well, I'm going to stop the recording now in case somebody else wants to ask a question off the record.